Hey all, Heretic here, and today I'm going to do something I get asked a lot. People are asking me, what do I do, Heretic, in the early game? How do I get to the late game where the direction minions are, and how do I know when I should start buying those minions? Well, let's jump into all the different ways we can get you through the early in the mid game to get you to where those win condition minions are with as much health and gold as possible so you can win your games. Let's talk win conditions right off the bat, just in case you don't really understand what that means. Maybe you kind of have a grasp for it, but maybe there's something I haven't explained correct. So let's just touch upon that very briefly. Win condition is something, either a single card or typically a combination of cards that will win you the game. Now that seems obvious, but how you get them and what they are sometimes means something to one person and something different to another. So just because you look at data somewhere or your favorite streamer says, Beasts are the best tribe in the game, play Beast, doesn't mean on turn one, you go, I am playing Beasts. They're the best in the game, I'm going to win. And then after 4 or 5 games, you've only got Beasts in 3 of them. You lost 2 out of 3 of them and it felt really bad. You got 2 8th place and like a 3rd. And you're like, well, I thought Beasts were great. I watched X streamer and they told me Beasts were the greatest. And I watched them win with a board full of 600 Goldrin buffed minions. Why am I always dead? Maybe that's because on turn 1, you're going, I'm playing Beast. So let's look at some more examples. Say a Blade Collector and a Peggy. By themselves, not great, but when used in concert, if you have only 2 pirates on your board especially, and you're cycling a lot of cards, Peggy is going to buff that Blade Collector to where it's a lot bigger, to where you're going to get really good value. And when that cleave hits, you're going to do good damage. Obviously, this isn't going to be your end state win condition, but in the mid game, and then even possibly to the late game, if you get a brand and cycle enough, these cards can win you the game. But by themselves, they don't do anything. You need to have different layers. Goldrin is a good example of a really good win condition because Goldrin by itself, with basically any beast, can do a really good job. You really can get good value out of any beast if you have a Goldrin. But you have a Titus, you have a Hawk Strider, if you have Titus's Tribute, now we're taking it to the next level. Did you reborn that Goldrin? Is it taunted? Now you get in the picture. The buffs now have gone from just a couple triggers to say 3, 4, 6 triggers deep. To where, yeah, if you've got a Titus Tribute and a Golden Titus and a reborn Golden Goldrin, you are getting those astronomical levels, but you have to start with getting the Goldrin. And that's the hard part because that's all the way at tier 6. So while Goldrin is a great example of a card that can win you the game, if you get all the pieces and parts that make it better, you can win the game much better. Let's look at this example a little more. Let's say you looked at the heroes that were offered to you and the only one you liked or you were any good with was N'Zoth. Because while it's important to pick heroes that you know are powerful, if you don't really play them well and don't really have the patience to learn them, playing them isn't really worth your time. Doesn't matter how good trade Prince Gallywix is in this lobby, HS Recent Play says, oh my god, he's got the highest win rate, he's the greatest. If you lose and get 8th every single time, you either need to spend some time figuring him out or realize you're going to see him like once a month and just not pick him, pick something else you're better. So in this case, let's say it's N'Zoth. So let's say you look at the tribes. Let's say in this hypothetical, we have beasts, murlocs, undead, naga, and mechs. And you go, you know what? Streamer X once again told me beasts are the best. I've got N'Zoth. I'm just buying beasts. And you may win. You may hit every single beast you need. You may just find everything, triple into that Goldrin, get the Titus, and you might dominate the lobby. Typically, you're probably going to lose doing that. Because let's say when you're tiering up, when you get to tier 3, in that first shop that opens up to you, there are 2 Scour Fins and a Deflecto bot. Now this is 2 Murlocs and a mech. But you're saying, I'm N'Zoth. I want to play Beasts because Beasts are the best and N'Zoth is great with Beasts. And you're not wrong. And if you were to say play that same perfect Beast board against whatever else you might do, you probably win. But that's assuming you find perfect in the other parts when you've already got 2 Scour Fins and a Deflecto in front of you. Now, these are big buffs. You might want to rethink your plan. This is instantly, I would be like, I am now going to be buying these because I want to buff the hell out of these. We have a good angle with mechs, with double Scourfin, with this hero power of N'Zoth. We can buff the hell out of mechs, attach them to our other mechs, and go completely nuts. And in the end, you might and you probably will, just sell your fish of N'Zoth. It doesn't matter. Let it go. You don't have to play the tribe that it's best with. You have to play the tribe the lobby gives you. You don't play what you want to play in this game if you want to win. You play what the lobby gives you. So let's say our turn begins. We're either picking from 2 heroes or 4 heroes, depending if whether or not we have the battle pass. Obviously, if you got 2, you have a much more limited selection, which makes it easier at the same time, has it more difficult because they might both be trash, but they're both trash. You only have to make 1 of 2 bad choices instead of 1 of 4 possible bad choices if they're all trash and you have 4 choices, because that does happen a lot too. So you need to decide which one to pick. So you should look at the tribes in the lobby and say, okay, which one of these will work with my hero power? And how can I synergize them and make them work? And you probably should pick the ones that synergize the best. But now you also have to take into account an earlier thing I said. Can I play with any effective skill the hero that is best in this lobby? If the answer is no, and you don't want to learn, and you want to just have fun, don't pick that hero. I don't care how good everybody says it is. If you don't like it, you don't want to learn it, just let it go. You're not going to see it for a few more games. If you only have 2 heroes, you're probably not going to see it for a couple hundred games. Just let it go. Play the one you're most comfortable with that's good in the tribes that are there. That is the best advice I can give you at hero selection. No, I want to tell you to pick the best hero and learn how to play him, but you're probably not playing the game as crazily as some of us are. You're playing it more casually. You just want to have fun. In that case, play the thing that works best for you. So let's go to turn, what my thought process is while I'm playing the game. And first, we want to start right off the bat thinking about what we're going to be facing, what's the strongest thing that we could be utilizing. Now, we mentioned that in hero selection, but every turn you kind of want to take a look at the minions offered to you and what directions you have. So are they strong by themselves just because they're big stats, say they're a 4/5, or are they strong because they have a death rattle and you are playing N'Zoth? I know I'm keep using that as an example because it's a very simple example of what to do. You have to decide which one is going to work best, and sometimes none of them are good. Typically, I would look at the economy, but we're going to get into those details in a second. One thing I do want to say, biggest tip I can give you during the entire game is roll as little as possible. If you are rolling, spending 1 gold, and it's the difference between you buying a minion and not, there has to be a damn good reason to roll. There has to be a huge power spike potential for it to be worth it for you. Typically, anytime you're just rolling, you are just throwing away gold, which means you're typically just throwing away some of your health in the game. So the things I ask myself typically when I'm not distracted by my chat and I'm streaming in the order is this. 1, do I need damage control? Now, obviously turn 1, you probably don't need this. Turn 2, you probably don't need this, but you've had a bad turn 3 and 4, you might. And what I mean by damage control is, did I just take a lot of damage? Did I fight Millhouse on turn 3 and he hit me for 8? Or Bran, because he's got his Bran on turn 4 already, and I took 10 damage on turn 4, and I lost the first 2 fights also, and I was already playing a low armor hero, and all of a sudden I'm already at like 20 health. Those games can happen. Am I still at 18 armor in full health? Then obviously I don't care. I'm not worried about it. So the next thing I think to myself is there a win condition in the shop? So I look at those minions. Is there anything that cobbled together either from my synergy of my hero power or the other minions? Is there already something I can see? Early example, this would be, say, a Wrathweaver and a Soul Rewinder. If you're looking at those immediately on turn 3, not a bad start. It may not be a complete win condition of the game, but it's going to enable you the ability to get to that later game from the power, the tempo these 2 cards synergy is going to bring to your board. Third thing I think about, is there a pair or triple in the shop, and is it worth buying them? Now, good example, this would be turn 1, there's 3 Sunbacon relaxers in the shop. That's what you call a trap. You don't want to buy those. But let's say it's turn 3 and you're playing Shutterwalk and you've already got a shell collector and there's 2 shell collectors in the shop. That's not a trap. That's just you printing gold for the next few turns. It really depends on what they are. Obviously, you'd rather triple something amazing into another win condition. You'd rather be sitting at tier 5, have 3 Tituses and triple into a Goldrin on a beast board and be like, GG, we're good. That is obviously what you'd rather do, but more than likely you're going to get stuck with these early triples that sometimes are just traps. You need to recognize when they are good and when they are bad. And you don't want to triple into early things. Like, you don't want to triple if you can help it into a tier 2 or 3. You want to be tripling into a tier 4, really a 5, and then a 6. because that's where the really big win condition cards are, and not just the cards that are going to help enable you to get there. Because if you're already there, you don't need the enabling, you need the win. The fourth thing I ask myself, and you might go, you're crazy, Heretic, this is the fourth? And I go, yes, the fourth, because the first thing I need to do is make sure I don't die. And then I'm not seeing if I can win the game, and triples and pairs help me win the game. The fourth thing I think about is tempo / synergy, or equally economy, unless I'm in really good strength. If I'm stronger, I'm going to look for economy minions. I'm going to look for economy spells that will give me that extra value in the following turn so I can do better. Tempo and synergy means either big stats or just things that all work well together. Good example of that would be, say you had in your tier 4 shop, you had an audacious anchor. Well, 313, it's a lot of stats, can snipe the right minion pretty good. But let's say you already had 2 handless Forsakens, and in the shop was a sore loser. Well, if your sore loser doesn't get hit, or if you already have a taunt, that sore loser and those handless Forsakens are going to give you more tempo, because it's more attack overall that they can deal to your opponent's board. And hell, if you have economy, that means now you can think about tiering faster. If you've already got relatively good health, now you're thinking, maybe I don't have to take that tier 5 triple. I'm at 30 health with 18 armor. Maybe I can just go to tier 5. No, I'm going to take 15 damage, not care, and then triple into a tier 6. Especially depending on your hero, you might not take any damage, or heaven forbid you're like a Reno, and now your tier 6 minion is going to be basically gold instantly. There's a lot of potential with economy depending where you are in strength-wise. That's why the first thing we check every turn is, do we need a damage control? And I'm not going to get into tiering too much here, because tiering, while it is very important in the early and mid game, is going to be a little different beyond, I typically just do the fast basic. There is a whole guide for tiering. I'll put it in the description below. It is from the previous meta, but it basically holds up completely. I kind of made it so it would be timeless. You know, each meta is going to change to where something is more favored, but fast basic, the basic curve are typically the most safe ones to use. And we have to think about spells a lot while we're playing. Spells really can affect how you might want to play the game. Maybe you want to go a little slower because you found really good economy or really good power. At tier 1, we look at spells like Them Apples. A +1/+3 buff to your whole shop is massive. You put that down, especially if you've got demons or max, you're getting a lot of value based on either eating the other minions in the shop or your divine shields. Enchanted Lasso is 2 gold to get a random minion from the shop. Well, hey, guess what? If your hero power costs X amount, and with that 2 gold because of the Enchanted Lasso, now you can tier, steal a minion from the shop and still hero power. You really need to think about how that affects your play, because if it's going to give you a better minion or just better economy, you definitely want to go for that. At tier 2, we have spells like Careful Investment, which is spend 1 gold now to get 2 gold the next turn. At Chef's Choice is to give you a random minion that isn't the one you target of that type. Is amazing targeted discovery, and once again, allows you to tier to do things you might not normally do. That gives you a big advantage. At tier 3, we have Reckless Investment, which is pay 1 gold to get 3 gold now, and you pay 2 gold next turn. That one's pretty big if you already know you're not going to tier in the following turn, or if you know you'll have exactly enough gold to tier in the following turn, because that extra gold now is great. Typically, the turn I like to tier up, if I see this in the shop, I happily snag this, because now I know I can roll a little more aggressive potentially and say that tier 4 shop, because this guarantees a minion. So I'm good. And since I just got to tier 4 in this example, probably not immediately jumping to 5. So I can do this to try to steal the right value and get the good minions out of the shop. Basically, these are the things I do until I get a win condition. It's just continuously progress and go and go. You tier until you find that value when it makes sense. You think, am I in danger? Am I strong enough? Do I have the extra economy? Where does my next opponent stand? If my next opponent is super strong, did 15 damage to his last 2 opponents, maybe I shouldn't assume I'm going to win that fight. Maybe don't do the overconfidence bet if you see you're fighting a high tempo hero who's been winning his fights when you've kind of just been tying it and you're playing a Bigglesworth who has essentially no hero power till people's die. You really need to look constantly at what your opponents are doing, what's in the shop, and what you can do. But as you get better at doing these things, as you recognize the patterns, you will have better results overall. If you remember to keep checking, you will get that higher MMR and you will get those wins. Thanks for watching all. I hope you learned a few things. I hope you had a good time. Just a brief, some things you can do, some of the things I do that can help you get better at the game. Thanks again, folks. Catch you all later. Bye.